First of all, the release of Nadiya Savchenko is a huge event. It's a victory for Ukraine. It's a victory for, Nadiya Savchenko. It's a victory that the Ukrainians can be proud of in this war that they had with Russia. And to a degree, yes, it's a victory for the Poroshenko administration, although we'll talk about that in a more nuanced way later. But Nadiya Savchenko is a legitimate war hero. This is probably going to be the most household name for a war hero since the Second World War in Ukraine. And and you add the fact that not only is this soldier a prisoner of war who came back, but she happens to be a woman and a woman pilot, and her case gained international support around the world. So her story is a compelling one. It is a victory for the Ukrainian people, something they can be proud of. Her service as a soldier is something they can be proud of. And of course, from an ironic standpoint, she was exchanged, even though the Russians deny it, for 2 Russian spies. So, the joke is one Ukrainian woman's worth 2 Russian spies. If I would argue more, but, you got to start somewhere. So this is something all Ukrainians can be proud of from east to west, from Lviv to Luhansk. And this is an important event for Ukraine. Now, there's obviously many more prisoners of war who Ukraine will continue to negotiate on, but their cases are not as well known. But nonetheless, this is a positive sign in terms of the negotiations with Russia, and just something that someone that Ukraine can be legitimately proud of. Now, the question is, what does she do next? How does she use her fame, and for what purpose? She gave a good press conference. She spoke from the heart. She spoke with conviction. She spoke with firsthand experience of things that 99% of people can never imagine. Losing 2 years of your life to sit in a prison for a crime you did not commit in kangaroo courts. So she handled herself with strength, with dignity. She did hunger strike after hunger strike. She's to a degree, even a Sakharov of the current era. So this is someone that Ukrainians connect with very closely. Now the question is, what does she want to do with it? Everyone is asking now, is Nadiya Savchenko, what are her political ambitions? Today there was even a question, would you run for parliament? And she said, well, I'll do what the Ukrainian people want me to do. Now, obviously, there's no election this year. There's no election next year. There's an election in May of 2019. So there's no election on the horizon. But it was interesting that the question was asked, and it just created a bit of a stir on social media. So the question is, what does she do? She is an elected member of parliament in a very savvy political move by Yulia Tymoshenko. Tymoshenko made her number 1 on the list for the bloc of Yulia Tymoshenko. That was a very far-sighted move on Tymoshenko's part. It was also a risky move, but it's one that's certainly going to pay political dividends. She did a press conference at the Bakyivщина headquarters, and Nadiya Savchenko is going to be the hottest political ticket right now in town. The question is, how long does the fame last? Now, she will always be respected as a war hero, as a symbol of Ukrainian resistance against the odds, against Russian oppression. When Taras Shevchenko wrote about breaking the chains of Russian bondage, what better imagery than Nadiya Savchenko? The question is, what does she do with it all? Now, she'll obviously be a member of parliament. She becomes a member in what is clearly the least popular institution in the Ukrainian government, and consistently, year after year after year, everyone hates parliament. She's obviously not going to improve the ratings of parliament unless, of course, she gets things done in parliament. More than anything, she'll be at least a political symbol whereby you could see reformers rallying behind or getting behind her cause. There are a lot of political projects out there that people are trying to put together. Saakashvili, Nalyvaichenko, Yehor, Firsov, many people, Leshchenko, all those people are trying to put together different political projects. She might be one of the people who could be the figurehead or the leader to bring this group together. But that remains to be seen. For the moment, it appears she's staying in Bakyivщина. Another thing that will certainly compel her to remain in Bakyivщina is a recently passed law, 3700, and the use of Article 81 of the Ukrainian Constitution. I mentioned that because 2 months ago, the parliament expelled longtime lawmaker and former vice premier Mykola Tomenko and the youngest member of the Ukrainian parliament, Yehor Firsov. Why? Because they were elected from the party list and they left the faction. So under Article 81 and this new Law 3700, the party has the right to decide who fills the mandate, not the Ukrainian people. Now, this is a relic of Soviet times. It's a horrible law. In my blog, I was highly negative of this move. I think it's one of the worst moves this government has made so far because it's a setback for democracy. But that being said, knowing that 2 other lawmakers have already been expelled, I think there's zero chance that Savchenko leaves the faction at this time because the same article could be used against her to expel her. So a lot of people are speculating on what's going to be the relationship between Savchenko and Tymoshenko. That's a big question mark. Again, you've got two cooks in one kitchen, so to speak. Tymoshenko's a savvy politician. As we say, it's not her first rodeo. Nadiya Savchenko is, the hottest political ticket in town for sure. The question is, how will she perform as a politician? To give you an example, Vitali Klitschko was the world heavyweight boxing champion long before he became mayor of Kyiv. In fact, he ran 2 times unsuccessfully to be mayor of Kyiv, even though he was the world's heavyweight boxing champion. He was a source of pride for Ukrainians going back for 15 years because he made Ukrainians proud to be Ukrainians. Here we got the world's best boxer, somebody to be proud of. Now, popularity in the boxing ring did not always translate into political success. And the same question will become for Nadiya Savchenko. Will her popularity that she has now because of the war and serving her time, in a Russian prison, will that translate into political success? And if so, how much and for how long? So those are obviously key questions. One of the short-term gauges of Savchenko's political prowess or her ability to deliver votes could be as early as July 17th. On July 17th, there will be 7 special elections for single mandate parliamentary districts. These are to fill vacancies made by one by death, another by people being elected mayor, others by people taking posts in the cabinet. So there's going to be 7 special elections around the country. 2 of those elections are in Donetsk and Luhansk. So the question is, does Bakyivshina, bloc of Yulia Tymoshenko, do they send her out on the campaign trail and getting behind candidates from Bakyivshina in those 7 special election districts? That could be potentially very powerful. And given that it's a special election, not a general election, you're going to have a lower turnout. So if Savchenko came to town doing a big campaign swing, possibly with Tymoshenko together, that could be very powerful for Bakyivshina candidates in single mandate districts on July 17th. So if they win some seats and Savchenko campaigns for him, then that will be a very good leading indicator that her fame right now translates into political votes. Not everyone's cut out to be a politician. Not everyone's cut out to be an astronaut. Not everyone's cut out to be an artist. I mean, everyone's wired differently. So we'll see how she handles her political career. Now, she obviously appeared at the press conference with President Poroshenko, and I'm not on Bankova Street every day. I don't know all the inner workings of the National Security and Defense Council. What I understand from what I read and heard from people who are in those positions is that the Poroshenko administration did a lot to win her release. Now, does the Poroshenko administration get a gold star for it? No. But it looks like, from a reasonable standpoint, that they were doing what they could to get her back. I mean, they did raise her cause internationally, I think, quite effectively. In the Free Savchenko campaign that was in the U.S. and the Boryspil airport and all around Ukraine, I think that's a credit to what the administration did to get her released. Now, that's not to say, again, I'm not saying Poroshenko gets, Time Magazine's Man of the Year award for getting her back. He did what a president should do, and that's to get back prisoners of war. So with that in mind, and the fact that Savchenko appeared at the press conference with Poroshenko on Bankova Street, that suggests that she's not going to be, firing random shots at the president right away. There may be some criticisms later, At the moment, though, I think she's grateful to be back. She's happy to be back. She does want to pursue a political career, and the question is, being a member of Batyovщина, which is in opposition to the Poroshenko administration at this time, how actively does she go after the president? Does she say everything that happened before, but from going forward, I'm going to be attacking the president, the administration for a lack of reforms? That's one scenario, which would show, perhaps maybe some political sophistication, but we'll wait and see. I mean, on the other hand, she may just say, while I was sitting in prison, you guys were, lollygagging back here and not making any reforms, and now I got to come in here and clean up this mess. I mean, that could also be a powerful message. I mean, I have no doubt, with not a smidgen of doubt, right now at Batyovщina, they've got polls in the field testing every one of those questions. They are testing, if Savchenko criticizes the president, how will people respond? Will it make them more or less likely to vote for Batyovщina? Will it make them more or less likely to support early elections? All those questions are being tested right now in the field. I would bet anybody a bottle of a nice Horilka, Ukrainian Horilka. She handled herself, I think, brilliantly in prison. I mean, for anybody who's, they just couldn't break her. I mean, she, the image of this pilot, keep wearing that Ukrainian Trident shirt and going on hunger strike, man, that's powerful. How do you break that? I mean, she took on basically the whole Russian bear and beat it, That shows such a depth of character that, suggests she can be a great leader if she really sets out to be that. On the other hand, again, just as Vitali Klitschko found out, being the world champion, the best boxer on the planet, in the galaxy, doesn't always translate into political success. So, these are different skill sets. I'm a pretty good political analyst. I'm not that great of a cook. I mean, these are different skill sets. So if you look at her sister, Nadiya's sister, she's made some kind of angry statements towards Poroshenko and a frustration with the system, which are not unreasonable. I mean, I think any if I was ever in Russian prison, my sister would be saying far worse, no doubt about it. But, her sister obviously doesn't have the political maturity that Nadiya has. If you look at some of her statements, I'm just judging from what I've seen over the last few months. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. But her performance in prison suggests that she's not only feisty, but man, she's one tough gal.